All right, man. Well, let's get to it. Let's get to it. Hang with B Drop Podcast, episode 105. And I got a great friend of mine. This is my dog. He goes by the name of JUJU, Julian. What's good, bro? How you feeling, man?
Oh man, I'm doing good, feeling
I like
good. You
I like
know.
that. I like that. I appreciate you checking in, bro. I've been honestly, and I know I told you before we started recording, I've been trying to have you on the pod. Even when we had Teddy in the studio, we were even trying to do like hang with you, like just trying to figure something out. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So I'm glad that we're finally able to make it happen and just tell your story, bro. Because I know we've always spoken when we did events and stuff like that. And I've always been intrigued of like you playing football and like all that stuff, you know?
yeah.
So I kind of want to go into all that just because I feel like it's gonna be cool for people to get to know you like from way back then, you know?
Because a lot of people don't know me from man. Maybe I started 9 years ago, and that's what people think my
Uh,
story starts. But we've been at this for a while, you know.
yeah. No, yeah, it's true, bro. Like it's crazy because I feel like when you know people in radio, they don't know you before radio. Like they
Yeah,
just know you from when you started radio and that's it. You know,
yeah.
so obviously, I know you play ball and all that, but let's just start from the jump, bro. Like let's just start like, how were you when you was a kid? Like what were you into? Like just tell me more about who Julian is, you know?
Okay. Growing up as a kid, me and my siblings are very far apart.
Uh-huh.
So like me and my oldest brother are 5 years apart. Me and my youngest brother are 7 years apart. Me and
Oh
my
shit.
sister are 12 years apart. So
Damn.
we grew up not. I don't want to say we grew up lonely because we still had cousins and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
But we grew up very in like kind of in solitude, because like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
obviously you hit an age where you and your brother you guys don't mesh anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
5 years is different. So when I was like 5, 6 years old, he was 11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
He started thinking about girls. I'm like still thinking about Power Rangers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
so it's kind of an adjustment because you're like, yo, man, where's my brother? I want my brother. Like we used to hang out, like we used to watch
Yeah.
Power Rangers together, my guy.
Yeah,
Like
true.
so, like, but then like, and then the same thing happens when I had my little brother. I was like, oh, when he was growing up, I was like, we were kind of like, yeah, cool, close, close, close. But then I hit that age. So when he
Yeah.
was 5, I was 12, and I was
Yeah.
like, wait,
Yeah.
who's shorty over there?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like
yeah.
so. So yeah,
Damn.
so we grew up like very. I'm very comfortable with being alone. I think a lot of people
Mm,
don't understand that about me. It's like, yeah, don't get me wrong. I love being around people, and I will make everyone as comfortable as possible. But
yeah.
I'm the type of guy who can go to a movie by himself, go on a trip by himself, and like, because that's just how I grew up. We had to
Right.
make our own fun, like I had let my imagination run wild, and stuff like that.
Damn, that's crazy for you to say that you're able to be alone. That's hard to kind
Yeah,
of like, you know what I mean? Because I don't think nobody likes to be alone and shit.
yeah, no, yeah. Like no one, again, like, no one likes to. Don't get me wrong. I love having company,
Yeah.
but I will never feel like I'm never feeding for company,
Yeah.
So because
Damn.
again, that's just how I grew up, and like grew up luckily in a blessed household. My parents are still together. I know a lot of people can't say stuff like that.
Yeah.
My dad took care of me. He always takes me to my practices, my games, and stuff like that. So like, don't get me wrong, I was shown love, and that's how I
Right.
know how to show love. But I was also one of those guys like, yo, I could do it by myself too. Like,
Yeah. No, that's a good balance. Like that's like
yeah,
to be self-aware, knowing that like, hey, I'm cool being solo, but
yeah,
like I'm cool also having company. It's not like you like dismiss people wanting to hang out with you. You're like, no,
yeah,
I just want to be by myself, you know?
yeah.
No, that's cool, bro. And what got you into sports? Because obviously I know we talk sports a lot,
That,
but
yeah, I mean, that's how me and you really bonded
yeah,
was over
yeah,
sports, like because
facts,
you play
yeah,
ball, I play ball, then we love football together, I mean, even though
yeah.
the Niners suck, it's all cool. Don't worry
Oh,
about
come
that.
on. Like,
No,
what the
it's
fuck?
all good.
We're 5 minutes in. At least wait towards the end.
At least wait till we say bye.
Yeah,
Tell me this off.
fuck.
No, tell me when I stop recording now.
Yeah, I'm a
Um,
fuck.
my love for sports comes from my dad. My
Yeah,
dad, he came over here like in the '70s, and like we just fell in love with baseball. So
yeah,
baseball was always my number one sport. I love baseball. I could watch it all day. I could play it all day. Whatever. Like I love baseball. And then, obviously, I'm a bigger guy. So once people started seeing me, once I started hitting that growth spurt,
yeah,
people were like, "Oh, I gotta get this motherfucker some football pads. Like we gotta get him some shoulder pads.
yeah,
He's gonna be my pulling guard.
yeah.
So that's why I started playing football. I didn't start playing football, tackle football until high school.
Oh shit.
I didn't start playing like team organized football until I was about middle school.
Okay, okay.
So before that was just just baseball, 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 and then someone say, "Hey, you big motherfucker, you see
Yeah,
that guy over there? Go tackle him." All right, cool,
yeah.
I got you, coach, I got you. But like I've always loved sports, and I love my favorite sports are like this. It's baseball,
Yeah.
football, soccer, basketball. But
Okay.
I love watching all sports. Like,
Yeah.
dude, this the other day we were watching the hockey playoffs. Which I don't really know the rules like that.
It's just
but
cool.
it looks exciting. I just love the fast pace, the action,
Yeah.
everything like that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I always figured you'd like baseball first, ever since we spoke, because
Yeah.
I even seen you like I don't know if it's a tradition, but I feel like you go to the opener like every year. Is that something that
Oh
you do?
yeah.
Yeah.
My dad hasn't missed an opening day in about 30 years, and I haven't missed one in 17 years.
Damn, like that.
Yeah. Technically, the only one we missed was during COVID when they had like the no one could go to the stadium
Yeah,
and stuff
but
like that. I don't really count that one, so I feel like my streak's still alive. But yeah, I haven't missed one in 17
yeah,
years.
yeah. COVID shit. Whatever you fucked up at that year didn't count. Hey,
And those 2 years,
yeah. If you
we're
cheated
taking a
during
mulligan.
COVID, it don't count.
It
you were
don't
going
count.
through shit. No, I mean,
Yeah.
you feel me?
Yeah, like those 2 years are a wash. But like,
Yeah,
I still
yeah.
tell people I'm 33, dog. You know,
Yeah.
like, hey man, nah, hey,
Yeah,
listen,
yeah.
I don't
like
count
that.
those years. I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm not experienced from those years.
Yeah,
You know.
you're not fucking up 2 years of my prime. Fuck that. You feel me? Oh hell no. Fuck that. No,
Oh
that's cool.
man.
No, bro, it's cool because and you played college ball too, right? Like you were playing college
Yeah.
ball. And
I played a little
how did that go? Like, what was that process like? Were you just in high school and you were like, yo, I'm really good at playing football, or did you play baseball in high school too, or did you play multiple
No, yeah.
sports?
In high school, I played baseball, football, and basketball.
Oh, okay.
So, obviously, I was good at baseball. Basketball, I'll be honest with you guys, I kind of fucking sucked at basketball, but I used it more for the footwork. Like
Yeah.
we did a lot of footwork there. So, for me, everything led me to work on for baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So, for a lot of people don't know, for football, as a lineman, as an offensive lineman, you need to have great hand-eye coordination, and you got to have a really great mind for the game because you got to remember these plays and where to run it like that. So, my hand eyes, I was like, I could see something coming from a mile away. So like that, for me, I used it all to help me towards baseball, but then I really started excelling at football.
Yeah.
So as I played 3 sports my whole high school career. I played 3 sports. I was sorry, excuse me. Something just popped up on my screen right now.
No, you good. It's a virus.
Yeah.
What
like,
were you watching?
Got me. Beach got me.
We got him.
My sophomore year, I made varsity for football. And then I just started excelling. And then the process is just going up to a lot of camps.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, what really started off my sophomore year, we went to a USC lineman camp. So I mean, it was when Pete Carroll was still the coach, and Ed Aldron, who just won the national championship with LSU a few years ago, he was the offensive coordinator, I think. It's me, some of my homies, like we were as a freshman, we were really big guys already. Coming into my freshman year, I was already 6 foot. I was 6 foot, 250 pounds. Dang. So coaches were already like, "Hey, gotta get this guy. Like, get him. Need him." Yeah. and what's crazy is I was one of the smaller ones of my group of friends of my freshmen. Like, I was one of the smaller ones. So like, the coaches saw it. Our freshman year, we went like 9-1. So they were like excited, like, "Yo, this future is gonna be bright at South Almani High School." So that's when they started putting us in camps and stuff like that. So we went to a USC camp, and I think what really kicked it off for me, I was like, "Damn, I might have." Something to do here, as we start doing the lineman drills or whatever. At the end, you do like the one-on-ones lineman drills. We're going against like these like seniors, I was like, yo, I'm a sophomore holding my own against a senior who more than likely is going to commit to a D1 school. So that caught some coaches' attention, but then South Almani still is such a small school that we didn't get no D1 love like that. We didn't get any kind of love. We got community college love. Yeah. So, but like by my junior year, that's when we started getting calls from but we were getting calls from like top rated community colleges. Right. So like Southern California is a really hotbed for community colleges. You have Mount Sac, you have College of the Canyons and stuff like that. So we started getting recruited from that by then. Like, hey, look, we can offer you minimal financial aid. You might have to move out here. We have to figure it out, but we'll get you to a D1 school. And and like I never really had thought about playing sports after school. You start thinking about your parents financially and stuff like that. And it's like, yo, I have a chance to go to school, have it paid for, and come out debt free. Facts. My parents won't be in debt. I won't be in debt. And like that's a lot of people can't say that. I know people that are still paying their student loans off, well into their 40s. So that's when I started thinking. I was like, you know what? So let's give this football thing a shot. What's crazy? Me and my dad got into a fight my senior year, and it was because my dad, he's very supportive of the Army. he loves, we support our troops 100%. I don't want you to think we're like these fucking anarchists. We support our troops.
Right.
But he didn't like the idea of the the military coming to schools to recruit.
Okay.
We don't, and I guess like I mean I don't know if I don't even know if they still do that or not. But
I heard of it though.
Events with power.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, we used to do events with power where we go with the army and like they recruit and stuff like that. My dad hated that idea. So one time, I don't know how they got my number, whatever they got a hold of my house number, and one of the recruiters called.
Yeah.
And he had made it seem like, oh yeah, your son is interested, and I was like, I wasn't. I had
you're like no papi, no.
In the army,
yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, what? So my dad called me yelling. We get into this huge fight. And I just leave the house, and then I decided, you know what? Fuck sports. Every recruiter that was recruiting me from every community college, I called them. I was like, you know what? I'm not playing no sports. I'm done with sports. I'm over it.
Right.
And for a while, I did. I stopped playing. I didn't pick up college ball. So I graduated in 2006. I didn't go to my first college practice until 2010 at Citrus College. And that was just by sheer chance. I know I'm not going to be rambling about this first part of my life, but real quick, I was working at Disneyland right out of high school. I started working at Disneyland. It was paying really good at the time. It was paying where I was working at. It was paying $13 an hour.
Yeah.
Where it's like that's in 2006, that was good money, because minimum wage was $7. So I was, and then I'm doing my thing there, and that's actually where I learned how to be a little more open and come out of my shell more. We'll get to that a little bit later, but what happened in 2010, one of my mentors from high school, his name was Bobby Salcedo. He was he had this thing going on in Mexico where he would go and build playgrounds and help develop schools, stuff like that. A real great guy, great for the community. They were in Mexico where he met his wife. I forget where it was at. Some just says they were in Mexico. They went to dinner, and the cartel kidnapped all the men. So they were at dinner, celebrating whatever reason in his wife's hometown. The cartel goes in, they kidnapped him, and he was executed. They found his body a couple of days later. He was killed. And I remember it was 2010 New Year's Eve when my dad told me that. So it happened around Christmas time when he was killed, but they weren't able to confirm it until about New Year's Eve.
Right.
So, and he was a guy who always pushed me. Like he was the one that always told me, like, hey, Julian, I wasn't called Juju yet. He was like, hey, Julian, you have so much potential. I see it in you. You're smart. You're witty. You have charisma. Like you can do so much, but you're settling for so little. You're just trying to coast by. You can't be doing that. I sense it. It's too. You have too much potential for you to coast by. I'm just like, you just say that to every student,
Yeah.
He ends up getting killed, and that changed my whole outlook. Where I was like, you know what? He's absolutely right. Like, and that's when I decided to quit Disneyland, quit a good job. I was getting ready to be a manager at Disneyland. Quit that. I know my parents are going to see this, and they don't know that I was going to be a manager, which that pretty much would have set me for life, bro. Like, like if once you're a manager at Disneyland, you're good. You're
good. Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna go back and play ball. I'm gonna go back to school. Wow. And before I even decided to play ball, I was like, I'm just gonna go back to school at least.
Yeah.
Let me get my degree in honor of Mr. Salcedo. I'm gonna get my degree for him. So that's why I started going to Citrus College, and I run into an elementary school friend of mine, Kevin Puckett. I run into him. He's like, dude, Julian. I was like, man, I haven't seen this guy in sixth grade. This has been like 7-8 years since I've seen this guy. And he recognized who I was. And trust me, I didn't look the same I did when I was a kid. I was bigger. So the fact that he recognized me,
Yeah.
He recognized me. He's like, hey, dude, do you play ball? I was like, nah. I was like, actually, I was supposed to recruited by the coach. He's like, man, come with me. He was on the football team. He introduced me to the coach, Coach Ponciano, who was the head coach. And he's like, I remember you. I wanted you to come to Citrus. What you've been up to. And I was like, oh, I've just been working. I decided to come back to school. He's like, stop what you're saying. Enough is enough. Come play for me. I want you to play football for me. And that's when I decided, all right, cool, let's give it a shot. So I started playing. That's when I started playing football. 2010. I played for Citrus College, and that's I only played for about 2 years though. That's the long.
Bro, that's such a beautiful
that's
story.
That's the long road. Like it's just like a lot of people. Like it's like, yeah, you go to school, you go to college, boom. I took a different route.
Yeah.
And if it honestly, if it wasn't for Bobby Salcedo, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be where I'm at right now. I would never have gone to radio. I never would have gone. I would have been working at Disneyland, still been a manager at Disneyland for whatever restaurant,
Right.
and that's what that would have been my story. That would have been the end of my story.
Yeah. Damn, that's such a beautiful story though, bro. Shout out to your mentor, man, because he sparked something in you that maybe at that time you
Yeah,
weren't able to see for yourself.
and I hate the fact that what I don't have a lot of regrets in my life.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest regrets of my life is the fact that it took him being killed to spark that in me.
Yeah.
To try to reach my full potential. I hate that.
Yeah.
I regret. That's one of the biggest regrets. Is like, damn, because
Yeah.
hey, I'm a real big believer in God giving you signs and God leading your path.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's not a good way to lead your path. You know, sometimes he
Yeah.
has to do something a little dramatic
Yeah.
to spark that path. And but I feel like with Bobby Salcedo's death, he sparked a lot of paths for a lot of
Yeah.
people that led them down a completely different road to what they were headed. You know, which I'm still trying to reach my potential. I'm not done. I haven't hit my peak yet. I still think I have a lot to give. You know, but I'm on the right path because of Bobby Salcedo.
No, that's beautifully put, bro. Because like you said, it's unfortunate that it has to lead to death in order for, realizations to come for other people. But I think that's also a blessing in
Yeah.
disguise, for you to be able to be where you're at
Yeah.
now. And I'm sure he's upstairs looking at you like, man, all right, cool. Like he did what I told him. You know what I mean? Bro?
Yeah, because man, he did a lot. He did so much for me. One of the best stories I have. I don't know if you ever heard of this thing called Boys State, where it's pretty much like this political thing that they pick two students from every school,
Mm-hmm.
and they send you to Sacramento, and you learn how the politics work and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he chose me for that. And again, that sparked like, damn, like maybe there's more for me, because in Santa Mani, it's pretty much you either go to college and get a cool paying job, or you start working for like the city or construction and stuff like that. That's the two options you have in Santa Mani.
Right.
And up until I met Bobby Salcedo, I never thought of like, oh, I could do this, I could do that. I was just like, I'm gonna get through high school, I'll get a cool job working construction or something, and that'll be it. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll be a cop. Like that's where like my peak was like, oh, maybe I'll be a cop. Like make good money, get a pension and stuff like that. And Bobby Salcedo was like, nah, there's more to you. There's more to you than you think.
Yeah.
And so here we are now.
Damn, that's beautiful, man. Thank you for sharing that with us, bro, because I think that's such a beautiful story. And it's crazy because I mean, we've known each other for so long. I didn't even know that. You know what I mean? So even hearing you talk about it is like, damn, like that's so cool. And what do you think is the hardest thing about playing lineman for football? What do you think it's something that you go, man, like this is something that I gotta really work on when you're a lineman?
Being mean is the hardest thing
to
play football.
Okay.
Because a lot of times coaches are like, you're either mean or you're not. And to be a lineman, you gotta be mean.
Yeah.
You gotta be ready to punch someone in the face. You gotta be ready to grab them, throw them. My coach, shout out Coach Escamilla, he was the head coach for me. And he was like, dude, you gotta, I want you to go for the jugular every play. I want you to kill these guys.
Yeah.
I want you to get them on the ground. And once you're on the ground, I want you to stay on top of them and stuff like that. And I am a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah.
I wasn't built to be mean. I wasn't built to be mean because already as a big guy, my dad, my parents, like they kind of like, hey, you gotta be a protector. Don't be a bully. You see your friends getting bullied, then you step in and then I give you permission to fight them. But don't go out there looking for a fight. If a fight comes to you, defend yourself.
Right.
So I think that's why I was a better offensive lineman than a defensive lineman, because I just didn't have that mean streak in me. I wasn't violent. I'm not a violent guy.
Right.
So, but like even as an offensive lineman, you got to be really mean because they're coming at you with the full of their force. That's the only position. That's the only position in football where every single play you're bumping heads with somebody.
True.
Like I know you play quarterback, and there's plays where it's like, hey, I dodged the tackle, or like I just threw it real quick, hand it off real quick, I didn't get hit there, But and like lineman is the only one where every play, every time the ball is snapped, you got to bump heads with somebody.
Yeah.
So you got to be a little mean about being a lineman. That's what it's about, being mean. Not like don't just go like in what's it called, like a black ray, like you black out, like you just go crazy. It's a controlled mean.
Yeah.
I gotta know exactly when to strike you, exactly when to hit you with that swim, or exactly when to hit you.
Yeah.
And when I hit you, I'm gonna hit motherfucker. You're gonna feel me.
Yeah. That's beautifully put, man. The words of a true lineman right there. And after your 2 years of playing in college, what was next, man? Like what was the next journey for you? Because I feel like that was the journey in football, in sports. But what was the next mountain for you? Like what was next?
So while I was playing football my first year,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even a starter yet, but I was already getting looked at by some really big schools.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was getting looked at by a couple D1 schools, couple D1 AA schools, which I was like, yo.
Yeah.
But everyone told me the same thing. You just got to get a little bigger. You just got to get a little bigger. Be a little bit bigger, and like, hey, there was I think a guy from Delaware State who like they were top notch Division 1 AA champions before they got moved up to Division 1.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, man, he's like, I like your look, I like your build. You just got to be a little bit stronger, maybe a little bit faster, and you can come Delaware State. Let's win some championships. And he was like, yo, I would have taken you with me right now if you were a little bigger, I'd take you with me right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I started hitting the weight room more. And when you're in college, when you're in high school, you get put on probation. Your grades start slipping. You got to talk to your counselor and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And they let you know, hey, you're messing up right here. In college, you are completely on your own. I think that's one of the messages for anyone thinking of going to college or decide to go to college. You got to be self-disciplined, because if you're not, no one's there to back you up. There's no school counselor. There's no parent-teacher conferences. You either go and do good, or you go and sup, or you don't go at all.
Mm-hmm.
So where I messed up was I started thinking more about sports than the schoolwork.
Mm.
So I would skip classes to go work out. I would skip classes to go, study tape or stuff like that. Because I was like, yo, man, this could be a real thing for me, So I was kicked off the football team into my second year because of grades.
Damn.
And so I was like, damn right. So I was like, you know what? Let me start getting my shit together. I started going to class, stuff like that. But in between that time, I had started hosting football games. I would announce football games for my old high school.
Okay.
So if you ever go to the high school game and then you hear that guy like, hey,
yeah.
welcome everybody. That's the first emceeing experience I got was announcing football games.
That's cool.
And I remember some guy was like, it was a mom. Her name was Sally. She was like, hey, you're really good. You should be on radio.
Mm-hmm.
How should I get out of here on the radio? Like never to that point, I had never thought about radio. She said, no, you should go see what it's about. It's like that. So at the time, I'm working at a furniture store with my mom. She got me a job because obviously I'd go to school. I had nothing to do and I need to make money,
Right.
So she got me a job at the furniture store, who worked with my school schedule. And I was like, yeah, I'll apply. I applied online for Kiss FM. I applied for AMP, and then finally for Power.
Yeah.
But nothing ever came of it. No one ever called me back, stuff like that. So I was working at the furniture store. My grades were getting back up again. I was like, yeah, maybe. But I was already older, so I had this really small time frame where I was like, if I don't get my grades up by this time, football isn't really an option for me anymore. Because I'm already well into my 20s. I'm about to hit I think I was like 2010. I was like about 22, 23 years old. So I was like, hey, this is my time frame. I gotta go from here. If I don't make it by this time, but I was finally getting my grades up and stuff like that. But then I finally got a call back from radio, and it was Edwin and Mars, our homie Mars. Shout out Mars. Yeah. Did the interview. Got the job there at the station, and that was the end of my football career. Wow. Right there when I got the job at the station. That's when I was like, you know what? There's no turning back for me now. So that's why so that was my and then even for a while after that, I was still getting calls from like a couple coaches and like, hey, are you still playing ball? Like I haven't seen any stats or any tape. Like send me some tape so we can see what you're doing. Like, did you get injured or stuff like that? I was like, nah, I got a job at a radio station. And then like, what? Like, yeah, like it was even one of the final people I ran into while I was at Citrus College. So Citrus College is right next to Azusa Pacific, who they had a division. They were at NAIA school, which is the lowest division before community college. and then they got bumped up to a Division 3, then Division 2. They were Division 2 school by the time I left Citrus College, and I had ran into, I forget his name, but I think his last name is Slater. But he was a lineman for the Rams, a Hall of Fame lineman for the Rams. And I'm walking into a McDonald's by the school. He's walking out of the McDonald's, and he stopped me because I still had my Citrus football shorts on. And so he stopped me. He's like, hey, you play ball? And I was like, I hadn't processed that I don't yet. So yeah, I play ball. He's like, what's your name? Oh, Julian Gutierrez. You go to Citrus? Yeah, cool. He goes and he talked to the coach. They were ready to offer me a scholarship right off the bat, just by looking at me.
Wow.
Azusa Pacific was going to offer me a scholarship, but then obviously they saw my grades. They weren't up to par yet, so they had to rescind the scholarship. So that was that literally, that moment was the death of football career for me, because I had just gotten a job at Power. I get the scholarship offer, but they pulled it because of my grades, and I was like, you know what? God's got me. I'm gonna do this radio thing, and that's the end of that football chapter.
Wow, man, those are two great stories back to back, dog. That's crazy, man. That's awesome, bro. Like, and how do you feel like you found peace by not playing ball no more? Do you feel like there was a point in your life where you were like, you know what, like I made the right decision? Or do you feel like through times you kind of go back and forth in that decision?
Not at first.
Yeah.
Not at first, because obviously you know what it was like working street team. You're only getting like what 5-10 hours a shift, maybe like 5-10 hours a week.
Yeah,
you know, and that was my only source of income at the time. You know, so like there was times I was like, damn, I could have been finishing up school or something like that. You know, because like I'm still only maybe like 3-4 semesters away from graduating with my AA. So even though I was doing bad, I was still getting some credits. You know, so I was still getting some of my units in, but of course. Like maybe like the first 2 years working at Power, I was like, ooh, did I do the right thing? I was like, yo. I was like, yeah. I was sick. I'm over here struggling with my pay. You know, I'm struggling with bills. You know, like, hey, bills don't go away. I mean, they don't go away when you get the job of your dreams. You know.
Yeah.
So I was like, man. And even my parents were like, you sure you don't want to go talk to the coach? Like, you sure you don't want to try football one more time? And I was like, nah. Yeah. So there was maybe like, I don't want to call it regret, because I try not to regret things in life. I think everything happens for a reason.
Right.
But there was definitely some moments of like, there were some moments where I was like, oh shit, what did I do?
Yeah.
Like, did I make the right choice? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But not now, up until this point right now, and maybe for like the last, like I said, it was 2 years. So after those 2 years, you know, I kind of started getting my footing in the radio world and stuff like that, and hosting and emceeing and finding a voice for myself. So that's when I was like, oh, okay, I'm in the right spot. I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. Damn, that's so real, bro. Thank you for also saying that it was like you were like struggling, because, you know, I think when people see that you get into radio, when they see you get in the music industry, they see you in these big platforms, they think that you're, you know, so well off. They think you're set, but that's another journey, you know, like it's like it's a whole different animal once you're in there. At least that's something that, you know, most people don't realize until you're in it, and either you follow through with it or you go, nah, fuck that, you know. And for you, you know, you follow through with it. You know what I'm saying? So obviously you started in the street team, and then you also started doing board op, and then I remember you teaching me how to board op. So I'm gonna tell you right now in front of camera, thank you for putting me on board opping, bro. Because I remember like you teaching me like at 2 a.m. in the fucking morning. You know what I mean? Just teaching me the ropes, you know. But it's like, how has the radio experience been for you, man? Like now that you know you're part of radio, like how has all that been for you?
It hasn't been easy. Again, I want you hit it right on the head. I think people, as soon as I told people, oh, I work for Power 106, oh, you must be making money. And I was like, nah. Quite opposite, really. Like quite opposite, really. Like, so like one thing I learned, I don't want to say I learned the hard way, but I learned it.
Yeah.
Was you got to really love what you do to do what you do for pretty much for free, really. Yeah. Like radio isn't a high paying job. It still isn't a high paying job. I still. Like I'll keep it a stack with everyone watching this podcast. I'm still like, I gotta be really frugal with my money. Like, all right, I gotta save for this, and that. Like, you know, and I like to have a good time. And people, I mean, anyone that knows me sees that, you know, I go on my trips and I do this, and you know, like I do what I can, but like what they don't know is like I account for every single penny because I got it, because radio is not a money gig. If you're getting into radio for money, you're not gonna survive that much long, you know?
Yeah.
So like like you hit it right in the head. Like people think like, oh yeah, you rich now, like let me get some money. I was like, wait, let me borrow some money. Like I'm broke, you know, like dog, like you want to borrow some money.
Yeah.
It's like, no, but I saw you in the picture. I saw you take a picture with Big Sean. I was like, what does that mean? I took a picture with Big Sean. You didn't pay me for it. Like,
yeah.
dog, like, it's
so
like, what the man?
Bro,
So,
oh my God.
so it's definitely been a struggle, and like especially again, it was an unconventional way. And like, because when I got in, I'm seeing a lot of you younger, you're quite younger than me. You know, you're still a kid when I met you. You already had been in the at the station for about a year or two when I got hired. You know.
Yeah.
So again, it's unconventional way. I had got into the game late, but you know, I was just working. I just put my head down and work. And again, shout out to Disneyland, because they're the ones that really brought me out of my shell to be a little more sociable and stuff like that. And that's where I kind of shout out my brother Teddy Moore. He calls it the JUJU swag, or the JUJU charm.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, yo, you can get people with the palm of your hands, and like you got the juice, you know.
Yeah.
So and that's how it was. It's just like so I got to get into the station, stuff like that. Is just finding your footing, finding what you want to do with it, and again, it's making that commitment. Like, yo, I'm in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
Which I have been. Yeah, I'm almost 10 years in the game. I think this is gonna be my ninth year already at the station.
Damn, that's crazy. Time be flying, bro. Time be flying. I remember when I met you. I remember it was just I just saw this tall dude that I was like, yo, if I ever need security, I know who to contact for my gigs. Crazy, because like I seen you in a journey, man. Like I said earlier, I saw you do street team. I saw you also be like managing. I also saw you board hopping. Like you've done a lot of gigs in radio, and I think that's good to talk about, because you weren't like, oh, I'm gonna just do this. Like, no, you were willing to wear different hats to figure out your footing into like, okay, what am I gonna do? You know, so that's dope, man, because like I said, you taught me how to board up. I didn't know how to board up. I remember when I started doing that, you were like, yo, man, I'll teach you, like, just roll up. And I remember me going after my gigs, and you were like, all right, cool, you do this and that. Like, so that's fucking awesome. You know what I mean? And like, do you feel when you were in radio, you were able to kind of open up a little bit more of who you were, like to show your true, like, because you're a funny ass dude, bro, right? Like you like to talk shit, like it's funny, like, you know, like, do you feel like when you were in radio, you were able to be like, all right, like kind of be more to open up, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, if I wasn't in radio and I was talking shit to people like the way I do, I'd get my ass kicked. You know, like people would beat my ass. Like, yo, I am a huge shit talker.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, because they see a station logo and a mic in my hand, they just take it. And they're like, I mean, I learned to talk shit like that. But I've always knew, like, real quick, go back to my childhood. I was picked on a lot as a kid. Like my cousins would pick on me. Yeah. So I already knew what you were gonna make fun of me about. Yeah. So you can't hurt me. There's nothing you can tell me that. My cousins used to make me cry. I used to cry like ugly. It's not my fault. I don't get a haircut. My parents don't take me. So there's nothing anyone, even to this day, there's nothing no one could talk about me. Like there's no one someone could say about me that my cousins haven't already said about me. Yeah. You know? So whether it's my weight or something like that, it's like, man, for me, I'm really good. And I, again, shout out my brother Teddy Moore, who's my best friend in the world. Teddy Moore on air, Power 106 in the mornings. But we learned how to, like, I will find your weakness, motherfucker, and I will pinpoint it if you really want to talk shit. Being around people like you, being around people like Teddy, Medic, Gabby, Felly Fell, who, like, you know, a lot of people, I used to see Felly Fell as a celebrity. Yeah. But the moment I met Felly, he welcomed me in like I was like a good friend. Now he's a really good friend of mine. You know, I consider Felly Fell a really good friend of mine. Yeah. But like just being around them, being around Big Boy. Big Boy is like I still look to Big Boy as a hero because like he is still God. He's witty. He's quick with it. Man. You'll never stump a person like Big Boy. Yeah. Like whatever you tell him, he has a comeback ready for you. Like he knows what you're gonna say before you even say it. Yeah. So that's just being around them is just like that's what made me a little bit quicker. Like I I was already I was already sociable as a kid, you know, so like that. But like, I didn't really come out of my shell, like I said, until Disney. And then what really helped me hone my skills was being on the mic around like the Jay Cruz's, the Big Boys, the Jeff G's, the Felly Fells, the Teddy Moras.
Yeah.
Now Melissa Rios, dog. Like Melissa Rios, I just met her 2 years ago, but I think she's one of the best shit talkers I've ever met in my life. Like,
Yeah.
she is quick. She could gab with the best of them, you know. Like,
Yeah.
it's just crazy how quick she is. Like, and it's just
yeah.
and it's just stuff like that. And that just, you take little bits and pieces from everybody and you make it your own thing. You know, you mold it to your own thing, and that's what I did, and that's what got me to where I'm at right now, pretty much.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. No, I know. Shout out to all of them, man, because, you know, just being around them, you know, just being around so many talented people, you learn so much, you know, and like you said, you get a little bit from everybody and just make it into who authenticity of who you are, you know? And, you know, obviously it seems like you're in a good place, but, you know, we can't, you know, dismiss what happened before pandemic, right? Like, I always like to talk a little bit about, you know, where you were at during the pandemic or right before pandemic, just to see how you were able to pivot into where you're at now, right? Because right now, I'm sure that you're like, man, I'm in a good spot, but you weren't thinking that 2 years ago. You know, 2 years ago, it was like, what the fuck, right? So during the pandemic, what was your thought process? Were you just thinking, man, I might have to work somewhere else? I might, you know, like what was life looking for you at that time, you know?
Dang. So right before the pandemic, it was March, 2020? 2020, right? And then we're getting ready to do some concert stuff for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
I hurt my back the day before. So I hurt my back. So I was like, I hurt my back. So I took the day off. The next day off, the very day after that, they sent everybody home.
Damn.
And they canceled all the show. They sent everything home. And shout out my boss, D. She sent us a link. She's like, yo, apply for this unemployment right away. Like, she put me on game for that before a lot of people really got you. So I was able to start getting my unemployment without me really any problems like that.
Yeah.
But there was a point where like, you know, you're not worried about it for the first few months, and then like maybe half a year into the pandemic, you're like, holy shit, like this is serious.
Yeah.
Because obviously you had like politicians trying to downplay it, like, hey, it's only gonna be like 2 weeks, you know, it's not that dangerous, it's not that serious, and then you just see it getting worse and worse and worse, and like. I remember like the whole grocery store scared of people stealing toilet paper and shit like that. Like, it's like, damn, you're like wait, like, obviously, and like I'm a very imaginative guy, so I was like, what in the I Am Legend is this right now? Like, what's going on? Like, these people are dying. Like, I was like, oh my god, it's the apocalypse is happening. You know, the apocalypse is really happening. And what's funny is like messing around with like Teddy and Beto, not Brian, the other Brian. Yeah. It's like, hey, our apocalypse game plan, we're gonna come to the station, steal the trucks, and that's how we're gonna get everything together. And like, we'll go here to get this equipment. I was like, and like, you're sitting at home and like, am I gonna have to do that? And two of the mobile DJ, like, yo, this is where we're gonna store everything. Which that's when I learned we're not built for the apocalypse, because we just stayed at home. I stayed at home watching Netflix all day.
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't maybe like about 8 months into 8 months in where they started furloughing people, and they started letting people go. And it's people you never think were gonna get let go. Once 8 months started going in, they started furloughing people more, or like they started letting people go.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I'm getting these text messages like, yo, do you hear they let this person go? They let this person go. They let this person go. I'm like, fuck, I'm next.
Yeah.
There's no way. If they didn't keep them, they're not gonna keep me.
Right.
But sure enough, every month we would get a new letter from the company saying, hey, you're still furloughed. You're still furloughed. You're still furloughed. And you just, and there's somewhat of an anxiety of that, of like, damn, when am I gonna get that termination letter? Then to pivot a little bit, all that didn't matter to me. I had started like, okay, can I go back to school? Can I start doing online classes? My dad works for a school district. Can he get me a job at the school district? You know, like, fuck, just something, you know, just so I can start making some money.
Right.
My mom works for a furniture store. She got furloughed too. She didn't get let go, but obviously the furniture store is no one selling furniture during the pandemic. And then luckily we got some of those what is it called, the relief funds and stuff like that. But me, like an idiot, I don't think it was an idiot move. I just spend a little carelessly, but I was able to at least become debt free with that money. So I was like, oh, at the very least, I have no bills to pay.
Right. Okay.
I'm good. Like, there's nothing. I paid off my credit. I paid off my credit debt. I paid off some loans that I had taken out. I paid that off. All I had was my phone bill, but luckily they weren't charging the phone bill at the time. You know, they stopped charging everything. So I was like, cool. I'm at least out of debt. So whatever we get out of this pandemic, wherever I go, I'll start fresh. You know.
Right.
But then, so again, to pivot from that, all that changed. I stopped thinking about it was when my sister got COVID the first time. So the first time and that's when the COVID was the worst. You know, we had the breathing problems and stuff like that. So my family, we pretty much cut ourselves off from everyone else because we're, you know, my dad is diabetic, has high blood pressure. He had just had his gallbladder removed, so he's high risk. Like if he gets COVID, he might die.
Right.
And then obviously they say, hey, it hits big guys worse. So I'm thinking if I get COVID, I am done for.
Right.
So my sister gets COVID. We isolate her downstairs. Luckily we have our garage has turned into a room and no one was using it at the time. So that was like the COVID isolation. That's where you go.
Right.
We had COVID, you go right there.
Yeah.
She gets out of it 2 weeks later. She's fine. She's asymptomatic. So this was January going into 2021. Around that time, I had, you know, things were loosening up a little bit. So I'm going to a birthday party for one of my friends. But she's like, hey, I just want you to, can you, she's like, the rule is you guys need to get tested. Show me a negative test to come into my party. So like, cool, you know, so I go get tested, blah, blah, blah. A day later, hey, you're positive. I was like, what? Yeah. And you get the text, that says, hey, your test results are in, click here, it's urgent. And I was like, oh shit, like, okay, cool. So I click it, you're positive. And I was like, what? Yeah. I was like, yeah. And I was like, but I feel fine. Right. You know, I don't have a fever. To that point, I'm asymptomatic. I don't feel anything. So I'm thinking it's just a false positive. Right. So I know and obviously I still took precautions. I hit my parents up. Hey, look, it says I tested positive, but I feel fine. Don't worry about me. I'm just gonna go downstairs into the our COVID room. Yeah. And I'm gonna go get tested again tomorrow. So I get tested again, and sure enough, I'm positive. So I have to start my isolation process, and that to me was like staring death in the face because like I didn't know how I was gonna react to it. Again, I'm scared because if you remember seeing the news, if you're overweight, if you're obese, and you have pre-line medical issues, you're gonna die. And I was like, oh shit, like so, like I'm scared as fuck, like yo, I'm gonna die. But luckily, I was not asymptomatic, but I had very little symptoms. I just lost my taste. I lost my sense of smell, and I had a little bit of breathing issues, but I was just like more congested. Yeah, more congested. But I unfortunately gave it to my entire family. So my brother got it, my dad got it, my mom got it. And that's when I started going into this dark spiral because you're alone, you're isolated in a room. And at the time, my garage that we turned into a room had no windows. So you're like, it really is a mental battle with yourself. But then, you know, your mom gets it and stuff like that. And then, so I'm worried about my dad and my mom. Luckily, my dad, my brother were asymptomatic. My mom wasn't. And a lot of people don't know this. And this is the first time I'm actually sharing this with, you know, the public. She was really close to dying. You know, it hit her really, really hard. She was in the hospital for about 3 weeks. And I think this, obviously, I can't see her. We can't go visit her in the hospital, obviously, because she has COVID. Right. But I still had COVID at the time. I'm still beating my symptoms at the time. So being locked in a room with no windows and your whole time is like, my whole thing, I started going through a little downward spiral because I was like, did I just kill my mom? Right. You know, did I, which, I mean, it wasn't like, oh, I was going out partying and I'm, you know, fucking making out with every girl I see. Right. Yeah. No, I was really careful. I was the guy who, like, if I left the house, I put the mask on. I go to the gas station, I put the gloves to touch any kind of surfaces and stuff like that before I use hand sanitizer. I go home, take my clothes up, put it in a bag so we could wash it right away. And we were just as careful as could be, and we still got it. And then my mom goes through this huge struggle. And man, I think that's when I started getting a closer relationship to God, because it's like, what else can you do but pray, you know? Right. And I've always considered myself, I've always been a spiritual guy, not really religious. I don't really like, you know, I go to church every now and then. Unfortunately, I go to church every now and then, but you know, I still consider myself a Catholic, and I still pray to God, and I, you know, stuff like that. And that's when Yeah, and that's when I got to the darkest spot where I literally I remember like the moment, like it was maybe 2 days before my mom was, out of the woods, which we didn't know she was out of the woods yet. She was getting real close to being it's the incubator where they put the breathing tube down your throat,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, hey, once a lot of people were saying once you get incubated, there's maybe like a 10% chance you come out of that alive. Like that and so like and I remember a couple of days before, I just remember like falling to my knees and like, listen, God, I know me, you don't talk a lot, and I'm sorry for that. I really am, and I will make up for it. I promise I'll make up for it. But if you could just help my mom, like, get through this, and like, I promise you, like, I started making a promise to God, and like, I will do this, I will do this, I'll be a better person, like, uh, anything you need me to do, you tell me, I will do it for you. I'm your vessel now.
Right.
And so and then we did that. Then we did like a couple prayer circles with my family over Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
We'd all link up and do some prayers for my mom, and just talk and stuff like that. And man, when I tell you, it felt like we were having her funeral already. It's crazy. Like it's like one of those. Remember when she did this and we were laughing? Remember? And I was like, yo, like I remember thinking in the back of my head, like, man, she's still alive. Like, why are we having
Yeah.
a funeral already?
Right.
And then so there was a morning where they called my dad. He's outside. Where we had all passed through COVID already, so we're good.
Mm-hmm.
We beat it. Luckily, my dad was asymptomatic. He had no symptoms at all, and
Mm-hmm.
he was the one we were worried most about. But he's outside. He gets a call from the doctor and says, "Hey, look, she's going through about what did they say, about like 17 tanks of oxygen an hour, and if she doesn't start getting better, she's gonna have to be incubated." Because we're not able to keep up with it. She's not able to breathe on her own that much anymore. And again, that's when we like, man, sorry, I'm getting emotional here. That's when like it's like, yo, what? Like again, it's a 10% survival rate if she gets incubated. She's not
Mm-hmm.
gonna make it. And I remember we did one more prayer circle for her with my family. And again, like I'm not trying to convince anyone to believe in God. If you believe in what you believe in, that's fine. But this is my proof to me that there's at least something out there looking out for us. A higher being.
Right.
We do the prayers, whatever. That night, my mom, even my mom remembers. She remembers, like, she's like, I'm laying in bed, and I just feel like something just lifted off my chest. So when I guess I don't know if you heard anyone with COVID, so it feels like someone's pressing down on your chest. Like, how like someone heavier than you gives you a
Yeah.
dog pile, and you're kind of
Yeah.
like like, hey
Yeah. Yeah.
motherfucker, get off, you fat
Yeah.
fuck. Like
Yeah.
like it's hard to breathe.
Yeah.
Like she said, that's what that's what it feels like. She's like, that's what it feels like all the time. Like someone's just pressing down on your chest, and you can't really expand your lungs. And she's like, I don't know what it was. I just remember like waking up, and you just feel like the pressure just being relieved. And just like that, man, I'm not telling you, my mom was maybe like 2 hours away from being incubated. And just like that, she started getting better, better, and better, and better, and better. And like, she's like, I just felt the pressure lift off my chest, and I started breathing again. So, and my mom beat COVID that way. And I to this day, I credit us praying to God. And I credit God for saving my mom's life. Because it's just, again, I'm not trying to convince someone to be religious. If you don't believe that's true or not, you believe she just got better out of nowhere. Hey, you're entitled to believe in what you believe in. But to me, it's too coincidental that the moment we started praying for her is the moment she started getting better. The moment I made my deal with God to be a better person, I told God, look, man, I'll go. I actually started to follow through on this. I have to go to Mexico. I promised God I'll go to Mexico City in front of La Virgen,
Mm-hmm.
and I will lay roses at her feet, and I'll pray to her as a thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, man, she got better, and she beat COVID, and we were 2 hours away from losing my mom, and she beat COVID, and I still, to this day, I think it's through the power of prayer. So
Damn. Honestly,
so
Julian,
and then
that's powerful.
and I'm
No,
sorry, I know
no, no,
I know it
no,
went long, but like it's
no.
just, and then so that's that so obviously from like January through, man, she didn't recover until maybe like June, July. I didn't give a fuck about anything. I don't care
Right.
if I lost my job. I didn't care if we lost the house. I would care nothing. I was like, yo, as long as my mom's okay, I'm cool. I'll figure it out after that. But And but I guess so. Like I know because you said what were your thoughts? That was my thought process, make sure my mom was good. You know,
Man.
and like yeah. So but fortunately, I never ended up getting fired from the station. They just kept furloughing me, and then I think it was maybe like October, November 21. They finally called me back to come back, but it wasn't as a promotion. It was just to come back to scan people's temperatures and make sure they sign in and shit like that. And I was in charge with making sure the office was clean. So I like the sanitizer or whatever. Like I go and clean everything, all the door handles and stuff like that. So, but yeah, like I said, those months between like January of 2021 through like October 2020, or sorry, June of 2021, I didn't care about anything. I was just more about making sure my mom was good.
Honestly, Julian, bro, I'm so lost for words, bro, and I'm not just saying it. I'm just like, when I was just hearing you speak, it made me like see things so different, right? Like it put me in a position right now. When you were talking, I was like, damn, like I felt so, like it was just so powerful where I'm like, damn, like I could be tripping about stuff sometimes. And it's like I had a friend who was about to lose his mom. You know what I mean? And it just put this like, I don't know. And I'm being honest with you, bro. Like it just made me go like, damn, like that must have been so hard for you, man. You know, and I'm so thankful for you sharing that, bro, because it's not easy to speak about stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like it's not easy to just speak about that there was a possibility, and thank God that, you know, that didn't happen, you know, for your mom not being here with us no more, you know, and for you to say that you were isolated and you were really going through, man, like, bro, like I just felt so like, damn, like even for me, I'm like, man, I wish I could have hit you up at that time more. You know what I mean? Just be there for you when maybe you needed another friend, you know? So I appreciate you for sharing with us, bro. And I'm so happy that everything's okay with your moms, man, because that would have been super tough for your family. You know?
Yeah. And I think like what really threw me in, like I think I hit to this point in my life, the lowest point I've ever had was maybe the day we found out that she might have to go be incubated, and I was responsible for it.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like I would not be able to tell you what would have happened to me if she would have died, and I would have felt responsible for it because I was the one that gave her COVID.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got it, but I was the one that gave her COVID. You know.
Right.
So and like yeah, just like mentally, like I think that's the lowest point of my life to this day. Because obviously it could get a lot worse in the future, but like, you know, so my lowest point in my life to this day was knowing that I possibly killed my mom.
Yeah.
And never like not and like I was and like yeah, and so like that and then the fact that being alone in a room with no one to tell you otherwise, and you just start letting your mind, the mind's a powerful thing, guys. I really do think that. And so like your mind's going all over the place, creating these scenarios, and it's like, man. And I remember like, I actually had a dream where it was my mom's funeral, and no one was talking to me, no one was sitting next to me because everyone blamed me for her death. And I know that's not how even to this day, I know that's not how my family felt. They would never have abandoned me like that. We know my family's we're too bonded for them to think that way.
Right.
But you let your mind think long enough, and it'll come up with a scenario like that. So like, my mind was definitely playing tricks on me. And I remember, having a dream where like no one, I was on one side of the church, and everyone else was on the other side. And I was by myself alone.
Man, that's the enemy, bro. That's the enemy getting into your head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You start feeling, I'm sure you feel so much guilt. You know what I mean? You start talking bad about yourself in your own mind. Like that's the enemy just putting so much bad, you know, scenarios in your brain that didn't have to be there, man. Like, and you know, you say that your family's close, bro. Like something I've always admired for you when I see is that you're such a good uncle, man. You know what I mean? You inspire me to try to be a better uncle. You know, I gotta be a better uncle when I see the way how you support, you know, your niece's baseball games. Like that's such a beautiful thing to see. Like, how did you become such a supportive uncle? Like, you know what I mean? Because it's such a beautiful thing for you to be like, you know, obviously you don't have kids, right? But it's like, you know, maybe that you know of, but it's but it's like none that I know of. You know what I mean? But it's like, you know, it's so cool to see how you are as an uncle, man. And I want to, you know, give those flowers to you because it's cool for them to grow up obviously with their parents, but also to be like, man, I got uncle that looks out for me, that if I know I need something, he's a call away, you know? So how does that go for you guys, you know? Because that's so cool, man.
I think it's just it starts with my dad.
Yeah.
My dad was a very supportive father. He would be at every single one of my games. He would be at every single one of my practices. And I don't know if he changed the schedule for us, but like he went from working nights. So my dad started working at a when I was a kid. My dad started working for the school district,
Mm-hmm.
and he would work nights. So he would start his shift at 4 and be off at midnight.
Uh-huh.
So, but he would make it so like, hey, and obviously when you first start, you gotta be working, but like he would make it so like, hey, all right, I'm gonna take you to practice from 2:30 to 3. I'm taking you to practice, and then from there, I gotta go. I'm gonna drop you off real quick, then go to work.
Yeah.
And then so like, but my dad always made it a point to be at every single one of my games, every single one of my practices, every single not every practice. Obviously he had to work sometimes, so practice,
Yeah.
but every single one of my games, my dad never missed my game.
Mm.
He never missed like an important moment in my life, like whether I'm getting an award or a play recital from school or anything like that. Like my dad was always there for me, and I think that's what instilled that in me and my brothers. Like, hey, that's what we're just a really close family. Again,
Yeah.
I'm very blessed that my parents are still together, and I just grew up in a really, really good family where we were all there for each other. Even my cousins, there was moments like I remember in high school where like my cousins would show up like, "Damn, you guys didn't have to come." Like, it's just
Yeah.
to me,
It's
you don't
beautiful,
really
man.
feel it, but it's like, yeah. So subconsciously it starts getting implanted in your head. Like, you just got to be there for your family.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's, and obviously there's moments where you can't. Like
Yeah.
there's some things that just happen where it's like, hey, I'm gonna miss, like, even like this year, like I thank you, appreciate you for saying that, like the good uncle thing. But I feel like right now this year, I don't want to say I feel like a bad uncle, but there is a sense of guilt because working with Melissa from 3 to 7, I miss a lot. I miss a lot of my niece's games
Mm-hmm.
this season,
Mm-hmm.
and I just and again, I know they don't feel this way, but in my you let the mind, like you said, the enemy take over, and I'm like, man, you feel like, damn, does she hate me because I miss her? I'm missing her games, like
Mm-hmm.
this my oldest niece, she's a freshman in high school now. This is her first year, and she made varsity. She made the varsity softball team. So that's a really big deal. Like, hey,
Yeah.
for a lot of people that don't know, making the varsity team, which is the best team in your school as a freshman, that's
Mm-hmm.
a huge deal. Like, that's
Yeah,
something
man.
not even I did. Then like,
Yeah.
so we're super proud of her. She works really hard. She made the varsity team as a freshman, and I wanted to go to as many games as I could, but obviously working 3 to 7, her games are at
Yeah.
3 o'clock. So so it took away from it. So I do feel a little guilt from that, but like it's just, again, it's just my dad, and my family just being so supportive of each other. That
Mm-hmm.
and that's what made me be. And it's not just a good uncle. I try to be a good cousin. I try to be a good brother. I try to be a good,
Person.
and eventually, yeah, a better person. But like, and eventually, when it happens, I know it's gonna happen. I'm gonna carry that over into my children. Like, it's just like, obviously, like we grew up in this world. Like, we grew up in this world where it's like you see a lot of negative things, and you try not to let it get to you, but obviously some things subconsciously get planted into your brain,
Mm-hmm.
and like you see, like it's like, and that's where I think where the enemy develops that little piece of brain, where it's like, oh, hey, they fucking hate you because you're not going to know. My nieces don't hate me. I know for a fact they don't
Yeah.
hate me.
Yeah.
I know they love me. I know they know what I'm doing, and they're even proud as like because um my sister-in-law is a huge Melissa Rios fan.
Mm-hmm.
So my nieces know who Melissa Rios is because even when Melissa was at the other station, they would still listen to her.
Yeah.
So now, like, hey, Melissa Rios, like, the other day, my oldest niece called me for something. I don't know, she just called me for whatever reason, but I was in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
So I had her on speakerphone, and Melissa, like, I don't know, Melissa just chimed in, like, she said
Yeah.
something like quirky, funny. I told you
Yeah.
again, she's really good at being quick. So
Yeah.
she says something, we laugh, whatever, I hang up. And then my niece texts me, she's like, was that Melissa Rios that just talked to me right now? And I was like, yeah. She's like, oh my God. So
Yeah.
I mean, they understand, they know what I'm doing. And again, it helps. Like, again, shout out to Melissa because she lets me get my chances on air. So they hear me on the radio, and it's like, okay, they're trusting the process as much as I am.
Yeah.
And again, I know for a fact they're not mad at me. They don't hate me for it. But again, it's just that peace of mind. You got to
Yeah.
learn
Of
how to beat
course.
that enemy within.
Of course. No, no, no. That's so true, man. And something that I've, right now, it's mental health awareness month, right? And something that I've seen from you, and I know I reached
Yeah.
out like a while back when you posted something on your story, and you were like, hey, if anybody wants to talk, hit me up. You know what I mean? And I kind of want to, touch a little bit about on that in the sense of, how do you cope with your mental health? How do you do certain practices? Like, do you talk to yourself? Like, And what made you want to make those videos about being there for other people? Do you feel like it was because, you know, a few months ago you were at a time where you were by yourself and you just felt like, hey, there might be people out there that are going through stuff that, you know, you kind of know what it feels to be on that side, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like, look, I know sometimes I project this like I got it all figured out. It's like, then I don't have it figured out. There's times where I'm really down on myself and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't mean this. I don't know how this is gonna sound.
It's
So
okay.
please don't take this. Please don't take this the wrong way. Anyone who's hearing this, and if you do, I wish I could divulge more, but this is the only way I can explain it. Is I like to consider myself highly favored. So one of I guess coping to me, yeah, it's talking about it, but I feel like, again, I'm trying to say this as humbly as possible,
No,
or
you're
like not
good.
to sound like a dick, like cocky, but it's just like, hey, I just feel like I have the mental aptitude
Mm-hmm.
to be able to take a lot of the weight, and I think it's a gift from God. I really do think it's a gift from God where, I could take a lot of shit
Mm-hmm.
before I really snap. Like
Right.
again, the and I got tested through it through COVID,
Right.
and I think that's where I really kind of reinforced the idea. Is like, man, I almost lost my mom. I was on a downward spiral, but never ever did I contemplate, hurting myself
Mm-hmm.
or doing something. Because like to me, I was like, yo, because and again, it's little coachings you get from throughout your life that you
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously remember. Where
Right.
it's like, what good? Like I said, it would have sucked so much to lose my mom. But imagine if I let myself get to the point where it's like, I'm so sad, I'm gonna kill myself. Who does
Mm-hmm.
that help?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't help nobody. It makes things worse
Mm-hmm.
because now my family's got to bury. Now my family would have to bury two people,
Yeah.
and my nieces would be deprived of an uncle and a grandma.
Yeah.
My brothers would be deprived of a sibling and their mom, a
Yeah.
cousin and their auntie. Like there's no winning scenario. And again, and to me, I think one of my biggest ways of coping with things is I think of the worst possible scenario
Mm-hmm.
of what I can do and how it affects other people. Say I'm having a bad day at work. And
Yeah.
I fucking hate this job. I'm not a fucking piece of shit job. I just want to fucking quit. I take a step back and I think, how is this helping? How would me quitting help myself or anyone around me?
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't. If I quit, my ass is going broke. It's tough to find a job right now.
Yeah.
As low as unemployment is, it's tough to find a good paying job right now that
Yeah.
really takes care of you and gives you the hours you need.
Right.
So how is that going to help me? They wouldn't. I'd go broke. How would it help my family? They wouldn't. They'd have to start supporting me again, and they'd be supporting a fucking 34-year-old man. Like they have their own problems to think about. So,
Yeah.
so I think one of the biggest coping mechanisms is obviously realizing there's a problem first.
Mm-hmm.
Is the first thing you got to admit that, hey, there's something wrong.
Right.
Take a step back, see what the problem is, and think of it. What's the worst possible scenario that come out of this problem?
Mm-hmm.
And you think of that scenario and how that scenario help anyone around you and yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start thinking like, all right, cool. I got it. Now then that just starts teaching me to find a different route.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but like I said, I really do believe that, and because I've never, not once have I ever considered suicide,
Mm-hmm.
which is a blessing because I know a lot of people have. I know a lot
Yeah.
of some of the strongest people I know have thought about killing themselves. So I consider myself really blessed, and
Yeah.
I really consider myself like really blessed. And so like I just try to pay it forward. I think
Yeah.
God put this ability in me to be able to take in a lot of people's grief
Mm-hmm.
and sadness and
Mm-hmm.
anger,
Mm-hmm.
and I will be that punching bag for you, and I can take it. I can bear that weight. I didn't. I'm gonna be a little cocky right now, but I didn't break school squatting records not to be able to carry a lot of weight on my shoulder.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and that's when I was like, look, man, and it started helping out with a lot of closer friends of mine who would come and they would vent to me
Mm-hmm.
and tell me some of their problems, and I don't have all the answers. I'm not gonna be, I come to me and I will cure you. No, I don't have the
Yeah.
answers. But sometimes it just takes being a good listener,
Mm-hmm.
letting them, como se dice, desahogar them, just
Yeah.
get it off your chest,
Just vent, like vent it out.
Yeah, just vent, get it all out. I'll be your punching bag. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And if every now and then if I could throw in a nugget of advice, like I try to draw from my life experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and try to help you out, I will. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
not. I think what helps a lot of people be able to talk to me is like, I'm not like, oh well, you got to do this, and this, and you got to do it this way, and this is how
Right.
I do it. No,
You don't
We all
judge
have
them.
different paths.
You're not judging them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I'm not. We're all here on this world walking the same path, but a different path. If that makes any sense, you know?
Yeah.
Like we're all headed towards the same direction, but some of us are going like this.
Yeah.
Some of us are going like this. Some of us are doing like the hard turns.
Yeah.
And also, all I can do is just sit there and listen and hope that just being there for you to listen and just knowing that someone cares about you. So that's what that's what sparked, because a lot of times I really really hate when people are like, oh, I wish I had more time with them. It's like, you do have more time with them right now.
Yeah.
This is your time with them. So and then like and one of the biggest thing, and yeah, like again, being alone in COVID, which I knew, even though I wasn't alone, I still felt alone,
Right.
because I couldn't really talk to people like in person and stuff like that. And so I didn't like that feeling, so I don't want people to feel that feeling.
Yeah.
So that's why when I post those stories on Instagram, it's like, hey, look, I don't care if we've never met. I don't care if we haven't talked in 10 years, 20 years, however long. I don't care if you just randomly follow me on accident and you just seen the story. This goes out to you too. Talk to me. And it's completely private. I'll never post it out in the open like that. And I won't even ask that, because I don't want you to think that I'm trying to get something off of you from it. So I don't even ask that, but like, if you need to talk to someone, or you need to fucking kick someone's ass, I'm here for you. Like I will be your punching bag,
Yeah.
I could take a hit. I promise I could take a hit. My brother beat me up enough. My older brother beat me up enough that I could take a hit now.
Yeah.
So it's like so like I just don't want people to feel alone. I think that's the biggest thing, and I think God gave me this great ability to be able to carry a load with you. So like, hey, listen, this and this, perfect. Give it to me. I'll take it. I'll take it in. I will carry that load. And a lot of people's things are like, oh, well, you have your own problems, so I don't want to give you my problems. Like, no, give me your problems. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. And it's just great. I'm at peace with myself. I'm at peace in my heart. So I think that's what gives me the ability to take in a lot of people's problems. And again, I might not have the solution for you, but at least I will help you carry that burden with you. Because sometimes all it takes is just someone listening. Like a lot of people think they have to have the answer for it. You don't. You don't have to have the answer for a lot of things. You just have to sit there and listen and acknowledge that they have a problem. Like, hey, I see you. I see you have a problem. And yeah, to me, it might not be that big of a problem, but to you, it's a huge problem. So I want you to acknowledge that. I don't want you to feel lesser than, because obviously, like you said, like you said earlier, like, hey, you thought you were going through your own problems, and you didn't know that your friend might lose his mom. I think it was my grandma who said, like, or my grandpa was like, hey, you go outside, throw a fucking rock in any direction, and chances are whoever you hit is gonna be having a worse day than you,
Yeah.
or like they have bigger problems. Like there's always a bigger problem.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that your problems are any less of a problem,
Yeah.
Like hey, and I so I just try to make you see the I'm a cup half full type of guy. So I try to see the positive outlook on lives, and like, hey, yeah, and like at the end of the day, we're still here.
Yeah.
And that's I remember you shouted that out one time too, and you started like, hey, we've survived 100% of the worst days of our life.
Yeah.
And we're still here.
Yeah.
We're undefeated against the worst that life has thrown at us to this day.
Yeah.
Whether it's loss of a job, loss of a family member, loss of financial, stuff like that. I know people who lost their kids, at a very young age, or who lost their parents at a very young age. And hey, I try to get you to see that, hey, you're still here. You haven't given up yet. So that means that you're winning. You're undefeated against life, my dude. Like, or my girl, lady, girls or fellas, you're undefeated against life.
Yeah.
Like, to me, besides almost losing my mom, one of the worst days of my life was losing my grandpa, who was like my best friend to me. I still, to this day, I still feel an emptiness in my heart that just cannot be filled because I don't have my grandpa with me. And it won't be filled until I see my grandpa again. But I'm still here. I'm still surviving it. So like, and that, again, that's where I try to draw. I just try to get people to see that.
Yeah.
Like, you think you're having a bad day, but you're still here. You're still here kicking ass, and you're still getting it done. So take that as a win. Take that victory. Stop looking at it. Stop trying looking at everything. And sometimes it is a loss. And it sucks that sometimes you do take L's, but overall you're still winning.
Yeah.
You got your health. You got a house over your head. You got a car that runs. you got a job, you got a supportive family. If you don't have a job that still takes care of you, like take these little victories. Everyone's looking for like this. I think like too many times people are looking for this like aha moment where it's like this big fucking, oh, I finally hit the lottery.
Right. Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
No, if you win enough little battles, it turns into a big win against the war of life, you know?
Yeah. No, that's so good. No, that's beautifully put, man. That's like you hit it right on the icing on the cake, bro. Because it's like we all got problems, bro. You know what I mean? And it's like I think the best thing to do is to talk about it. You know what I mean? And I think it's a testament to how you were raised that you have a good family around you. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, some people might not have, you know, a brother to talk to, or they don't have a good relationship with their family members and they feel alone.
Yeah.
And that's why it is important for you to do those videos, for me to do those videos of like, hey man, like don't feel afraid to speak on things. You know what I mean? Because some people were raised so different that they're not able to talk. You know, you never seen your dad cry. You never, you know, ever spoken about how you feel, you know, especially us as men, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you know, when you're a man, it's a whole different thing. You know, like you're not allowed to cry, you're not allowed to talk about things, you know,
especially if you're like I don't know if you are, but I'm a first generation US born US citizen born in the US. So my parents crossed over and I was the first one born here. And there's this like machismo that goes on even with women where it's like, hey, you can't talk about this because such and such and such, or like like it takes a lot. I have seen my dad cry, you know, but like it takes a lot for him to make him cry. Like, it took seeing my dad like lose two parents to cry. And my dad, he's lost two brothers. He's lost, you know, my dad's been through a lot, but he's still like, he feels like he has to be this like stone wall. So and again, a lot of people see that as a generational curse, and it's not. Because it takes a lot to be that tough for your family. So I'd never call that a generational curse because my dad, he's one of the toughest guys I know because he's been through so much and he was still there to love us, you know? Like he was still there enough to love me and my brothers, and not even my brothers. You can ask my cousins and be like, yo, he's like a dad to us too. So every loss that my dad has, and again, I think maybe this again subconsciously, my dad's taught me like, you know, the coping thing and how to be there for the people, because my dad was there for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, my cousins who, you know, maybe their dad wasn't really there for them. He would, dude, my dad would like randomly take my cousins to Dodger games. He'll take my cousins to theme parks and like, and they'll be like, yo, my dad never did that. And they'll be like, hey, my dad would never do that for me. Like my cousins, you know, like, I guess not so much my uncles, because it was like they were uncles through marriage and stuff like that. So they weren't around as much. So my dad would step into that father figure role for a lot of them, you know?
That's so beautiful.
So, and I think that's where, so I think that's where it comes into, where it's like, hey, look, if we have the ability to help, we should help. And again, we have our own problems. I get it, but like me, you, B-Drop, like we have this like platform where it's like, hey, we can help a lot of people who, like you said, they might not have that kind of family behind them or that kind of friend behind them. So I want to be that for them. Again, and it doesn't matter if we haven't spoken ever, if we've only ever interacted through social media, if we never met in person, it doesn't matter. And I'm hoping. And I do get some responses that, you know, I was actually going to drop another video soon. So hey, I'm still here. And but there was people that reached out, and I tried to give them the best advice I could, or like, hey, I just sat there and listened to their story, you know, listen to their problems they're having, and they just needed someone again to vent it out, and that helped them so much.
Bro,
you know,
that's so good. No, honestly, bro, like I appreciate you, man. And right now you say machismo, and it's like, man, that's so huge in the Latin community, bro. Like the machismo shit is something that, you know, you try to break those you know, like you said, you don't want to say generational curses, but like you try to break those chains, you know what I mean, of like machismo and not being able to talk about things, bro. Like when I started doing mental praise, bro, I was so nervous to put videos about me being vulnerable, bro. Like I was like, man, like it felt weird doing it, right? Because I was like, damn, like I'm putting like myself out there. But when I thought about it, it's like I'm doing it for a bigger reason, though, man. Like I do it so that people could be like, yo, I just want people to be good, right? Like I want people to be at peace. So I'm so glad you spoken about that, man, because it's like that machismo shit is on some other shit.
And again, I don't want to call the reason I don't want to call it a generational curse, because it's my dad had to do it. My dad and my mom So it's not even just machismo. It's just this like generational thing of parents.
Yeah.
It's like they had to do what they had to do to get over here to give us a better life. Like my mom crossed through the mountains of Mexicali, cold ass nights she was like what, maybe 7, 8 years old.
Imagine
When she
that,
crossed
bro.
over the border, and she had to do so much, and like and same thing. My mom, she lost a brother. My dad's lost 2 brothers, and they had to do what they got to do to make it survive, so to give us a better life.
Yeah, man.
And sometimes, unfortunately, what we don't understand as a younger generation is we have all these things for us. Like we have therapy. Back in the day, they didn't have it as open like that, and
Or you wouldn't want to, or
can't.
you wouldn't want to go. You'll be like, yo,
Yeah.
therapy, like
Why?
that's frowned upon.
Because not only is it frowned upon, but it's just I can't afford to take this time out of my day to help me because I got to make sure my kids are good.
Yeah, man.
Like, again, my message to everyone out there whose parents, you think, oh, my parents are so cold and they're blocked off and they don't understand and machismo, stuff like that. Nah. Do you understand what they had to do to make a better life for you? Like, as much as I talk about my dad being there for my games and stuff like that, my mom wasn't. My mom worked her ass off.
Yeah,
she used to work 7 days a week, 9, 10 hours a day to put food on our table.
Yeah.
Like, she missed a lot of. So if my dad was there for most of my important things, my mom wasn't there for most of my important things. Like, my mom would be there for graduations or maybe like a playoff game or two, but she had to go to work. Even like Mother's Day is tomorrow. My mom is gonna have breakfast with us, and she's going to work, and she's going to get out late at work on Mother's Day. She's getting out late at work. Why? Because she can't miss days like that. And even though now she can miss days like that, because we're grown, we have our own money, stuff like that. But it's still implanted in her head but she was a kid. My mom had to drop out of high school to work because she had to support her family. Yeah, there was no other option. And a lot of us don't understand that. It's like, yo, you don't understand what your parents went through. And I think that's why I don't want to call it a generational curse, because it's not a curse. It's a blessing that they took that burden on themselves to give a better life for us. If not, me and you wouldn't be talking right now. I'd be somewhere in fucking Zacatecas, Mexico, maybe working like a farming job or something like that, Like, again, I get it that sometimes you think your parents might be cold and cut off. And this is a message to everybody. I get it that, sometimes you think your parents are cold off, but you got to understand what they went through to give us the life that we have. They had to be. Why? Because they couldn't. Even just this last week, I took 2 mental health days where I just wasn't feeling it. I was like, I just need a day off.
Yeah, man.
So I took the day off. And my dog, you think your parents could take a day off like that? Fuck no, they would get fired in a heartbeat.
Bro, it's so crazy you said that, because I remember like when it was like Thanksgiving, because my mom, bro, it's so crazy because we had a similar thing. Like my dad was the one that was able to support me, and my mom wasn't able to because she had to work. She worked as a cashier for 2 grocery markets. So I remember when it was like Thanksgiving or whatever holiday, like she would try to put the request in a month of advance or whatever, and they'll be like, can I please, have that day off so I could be with my fam, and sometimes they'll deny it. Sometimes she would, like you said, she will be with us a little bit and then having to go to work, and her doing those sacrifices, bro, like that shit is crazy. You know what I mean? And even like you said, like that your mom traveled when she was 7, 8 years old. I'm like, bro, my son is 9 and he didn't have to go through that trauma. Like your parents have that trauma growing up, having to go through that shit. My mom telling me how she immigrated here and how like she had to go under a car for hours. You know what I'm saying? Like even my dad, he tells my son, like, he's like, hey, Jacob, like, he's like, I wish I was one day was able to get an ice cream with my dad. And my son was like, what? Why do you like why? And he don't understand. And when I hear my dad say that, I'm like, damn, bro. He was like, I never was able. I don't even remember ever watching a movie with my dad. Like that. Like I never saw my dad. And I'm like, damn, what?
Same thing.
Like,
my dad. He was raised by his grandma. He hardly ever saw his parents. He didn't develop a relationship with his parents until we were born, and they wanted to be there in their grandkids' life. So my dad was able to get a relationship with his parents.
Exactly, bro.
Like and I didn't know that. I didn't know that because like obviously, I know my grandpa as this fucking loving guy who would do anything for me, who would take me to go see the ducks, who would take me to these places and like do all these things for me, and again. Shout out to this is why you got to give credit to your parents, because my dad never, ever, ever, to this day, he's never said a bad thing about my grandpa, even though my grandpa did some bad things to my dad. He just wasn't there for my dad.
Yeah.
There, my grandpa and it wasn't like the good, he wasn't because he had to work. No, he wasn't there because he just wasn't a present father for my dad at the moment,
Same for my dad.
It wasn't until my dad got old. Yeah, it wasn't until my dad got older that then my grandpa started coming around and like, but again, my dad never badmouthed my dad. So like, yeah, people don't understand that. Like my dad never, my grandpa never took my dad to a ball game when he was a kid.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
never took him to Disneyland. He never took him to these trips around the country and like, let's go here, let's go camping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We get to count our blessings. Count your blessings that you get to go to therapy and it's not as frowned upon, and you get to be a better parent or uncle or sibling to your to younger people because of what the sacrifices the older generations did for you.
Yeah, no, it's so true, bro. And I think as you get older, you start feeling like, damn, you start even feeling empathy for your dad, because it's like my dad he wasn't raised to be how to be a father. He had to learn that with his kids, and I can't fault him for that. Like, and those are things as you get older, you're like, damn, like you start feeling bad because it's like the fact that, I already been to so many games with my son, and my dad could never say that. Like, my dad tells me all the time, like, hey man, like, that's good that you do that with your son, because I wish I had that. And it's like, for your dad to tell you that, like, you're like, what? Like, that's crazy, and I'm so, man, this been such a cool conversation, bro. This is so good, man, because I really hope that with this conversation, we're able to impact a lot of people and just make it seem that it's fine to talk about things and to count your blessings. That's the biggest thing. We always want more. We're always in the pursuit of more, and we don't see what's around us. We're not in the present. We're always in the future. I even tell my son, like, when we're doing something, he's like, what are we doing tomorrow? I'm like, worry about today. And then tomorrow's not promised. We don't know, bro. Like, how many times have you seen, like, what, like a person seems perfectly healthy and an unfortunate event happens and they're not here. So I try to always not focus on petty things, bro. I try very hard to just be like, hey man, like, I think God for us is to serve. So when you say that you're a punching bag, I think that's a way of saying, like, God put you in this earth to help other people, to serve. Because I always feel we're always at our best when we serve. I don't know if you ever noticed that when you're there for your niece, you feel good because you're serving your niece. When you buy somebody else's food, you know what I mean? Like, when I always feel like when you do things for yourself, like, don't get me wrong, it's cool, but it's like there's nothing better than you being in the service of other people. So I'm glad that I see you do that. You know what I mean, bro?
Yeah. People, man, I think it was like Pitbull that said, like, oh, someone told him that money doesn't buy him happiness, and they're like, no, money does buy you happiness when you're giving it away. It's like, when you're doing things, when you like, how good do you feel when you see Jacob wake up and, like, I get to go see wrestling?
Yeah.
Or, like, how it feels good. It feels good. Like, like the excitement I see on my niece's face when I buy her those Jordans, or like something like that. And again, I get it. They're material things, but to a kid, that's everything. Like, because like they don't really have the problems of the world yet. So like to them, like, damn, like, yo, you got me this, like. And what's funny is, like, sometimes it's not even like the Jordans, or it's like the little things you buy. I'm like, oh, dang, you thought about me and stuff like that. And they love it and stuff like that. So, but yeah, like I think servitude is like a great thing, and I recommend that for a lot of people. And different types of services. Like, hey, maybe you're not a good listener, but maybe you're really good with your hands. So go out and help build a park for somebody. Like help clean up the neighborhood and stuff like that. And like there's different avenues of service you can do, and I'm sure we could all find one that's to your liking.
Yeah. No, that's so well put, man. And I feel like we've had a great conversation. You know what I mean? I think this is so good. I feel like, this is a great way to, end the podcast, but before we bounce, two more questions. One of them is that, I know right now you're not near home. You know what I mean? You're in San Diego right now, right? And you're there for I'm gonna say your best friend, Teddy, and Teddy's such a good dude. How has that relationship mean so much to you in your life? You know what I mean? Because it's beautiful to see how you guys met, you know what I mean? And to see where you guys are now, where you're at his, you're gonna be at his wedding. Like, how has that relationship been for you?
Man, Teddy Mora, he's one of those things where we've known each other for as long as I worked at the station, which is 9 years. But I feel like within those 9 years, we've been able to fit in about 30 years of friendship. Like it's just like, dude, we've been through, like, and I don't know how it happened. I don't know what. It's just we just have this bond where like one of the funny stories I like to tell is, like, I remember, I'll never forget getting introduced to work when I first got hired. You guys had a meeting, and like you guys are getting out of the meeting, and I'm sitting outside of the conference room, and Teddy comes down, and like, oh, and then I think it was Edwin or Mars, like, hey, by the way, this is a new guy, Julian. I was with Brian and some other girl, I forget her name, but it was me and Brian, and like it was like, oh, this guy. Then like Teddy's first fucking words were like, who's this big motherfucker right here? And I was just like, oh shit, like damn,
Like, damn.
like yo, like yeah, and like it's funny because like even like right off the, it's not like me and Teddy got along right off the rip, or like it's not that we hate each other, we just didn't really interact with each other as much until we started hanging out. The first time we hung out was at Gyukaku in Pasadena when Gabby got her promotion to coordinator at the station. And that's when we first started hanging out with each other. And then we just little by little, you just like, it's funny because like we kind of, I don't want to say we have similar lives, but it's just we have a life that's just like close enough, like each other, where it's like, oh, I know what you mean by this, and you know what I mean by this.
Yeah.
And it's just a bond that just developed. And again, it was 30 years of friendship squeezed into 9 years of friendship because we were there for the highest moments of our lives and the lowest moment of our lives. You know, like we were there to pick each other up. Like, yo, like again, I said, street team is not a glamorous job. There's times where you struggle a little bit. So it's just like, hey, there was times where like I couldn't pay my phone bill and say like, yeah, I got you, man, don't worry about it. Or like, there's times where Ted needed me and I was there like, hey, can you do it? Yeah, I got you. And it's just like something just developed between me and him. And I don't want to leave Brian out of this either. Sorry, it's just us three. Yeah, it's just we're brothers, you know, brothers for life. And like whether it's like us driving Teddy to Phoenix so he could be on air and then having to drive him back so we could do like, you know, so like it's little things like that. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just I would be lying if I said I knew exactly how our friendship formed. I don't. Yeah. It's just a friendship that formed into a brotherhood, and now we're here where it's like, yo, he's the closest thing to a brother I have that's not blood related, you know? Yeah. And one of the things my dad always used to tell me, he's like, hey, listen, son, you don't have friends. You have acquaintances, you have people you get along with, but you don't have friends. You only have family. And I never really understood that until I met someone like Teddy, where it's like, oh yeah, that's my fucking brother. Yeah, you know, you beat up, you're my brother, bro. Like, yo, like even though we might not see each other as much as we like to, or talk about we like to. Yeah. Just know that I know if I reach out to you, you'll text me back, and if you reach out to me, I'll text you back, and that's love. Yeah, that's family shit right there, you know. So and then obviously like Brian and Teddy, they have this like we just have this bond where it's just like, yo, again, we were there for the lowest parts of our lives, so now we're celebrating the highest parts of our lives, you know. Yeah. Together. Yeah. And I wouldn't have it any other way. That's my brother for life, and he's gonna be whenever I decide to get married, he's gonna be right there, lined up next to me too, and we're gonna be there for the biggest moments of our lives, you know, from here on out. Like he can't get rid of me. He's stuck with me, you know?
And that's beautiful. No, that's beautiful, man. And how does it feel to see him get married? Like as you know, like you said, him being your brother. Like, how does that feel? Is it like a beautiful feeling to be like, man, like my brother's taking up a different chapter of his life?
Yeah, like I said, man, I seen Teddy grow up, man. Like I seen him like you just see him like, and I was there for the whole inception of the relationship with Ashley, and she's like a sister to me too, you know. So it's like, I know sometimes people don't like there's reasons like, damn, I'm losing my brother or something like that. I don't see it as losing a brother. I see it as gaining a sister, you know, like like it's just so beautiful to see, and like the fact that we all get along so well, and like it's crazy to me. It's crazy. Like if you would have told me 5 years ago, hey, Teddy Morrow's gonna be married before you, I would have laughed in your face. You know, like it's just not something you saw happening. But yo, in comes this girl Ashley, who just changed this guy's life around. You know, and she's been a blessing. Just as like Teddy Morrow would always be like, man, if it wasn't for you guys, this is like, yeah, man. But like the same thing, like I feel like Ashley did the same thing for him too. It's like, yo, she changed his life around, and and not that he had a bad life. It's just like, you know, she added to the value of his life that he already had. You know. This guy was already on his way to do big, really good and big things, and she just added to that. Yeah, you know, and now he's like, he's starting his family. So it's great to see. You know, there's a little jealousy. You know, obviously you feel like you're losing your friend a little bit, but like we're always gonna be there for each other at moments like this. You know. Yeah. It used to be to the point where like me and Teddy would talk every single day, like without fail for like 5 years straight. We would talk to each other every single day, and then obviously he gets his girl, and you know a little bit but like. I've never felt any ill will towards like, yo, I know he's doing his thing and sometimes I'll do my thing. But at the end of the day, you put us together and it's a wrap, you know, like we're gonna, we'll shut a bar down for sure.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. And shout out to Ash, man. She's such a great person. You know what I mean? And even for me to see it, you know, knowing them both, you know, is such a beautiful thing for, like you said, for them to have such a good relationship and you to maintain a good relationship with them. It's good to see him, you know, that different chapter, man, you know, because, you know, I known Teddy way before that too, like you said, and to see him grow and have a, you know, a woman on his side that, you know, is like just supports him and rocks for him. it's a beautiful thing, you know. So obviously I you know, wish him such a beautiful marriage, and they know that. And you know, right now you said, you know, going into my last question, you said, you know, you rock a bar for sure. You know, I feel like in the past couple months or years, you know, you taking this transition of being Juju, right? You've been MCing and stuff like that. How has that process been for you? Just kind of being an MC, doing what is to our guy with our guy Medic, you know what I mean? Like just doing those things. Like how has that been going for you? You know?
Man, it really is. The character of Juju is starting to take up a life of its own, you know.
Yeah.
And the one thing I will tell you guys is the same. I know it's the character of Juju, but it's still 98%. That's just me.
Yeah.
That's just the authentic me. Like, but it's 2% that add a little swag and a little bit here and there to like to elevate the character of Juju a little bit. But like, it's just, it's been a crazy journey. And again, shout out to my brother Medic, man, who's put me on, like, bro, giving me opportunities and like, yo, he like, hey man, hey, rock with me, and like he Medic would pay me out of his own pocket before I started earning money. So whatever money he got from his gig, he come in a piece of his own money. So he'd take a lesser cut just to put me on and let me rock the mic, and so to let me practice and let people see the talent that I really have.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be rocking these clubs. I wouldn't be doing these weddings and like hosting and stuff like that, because it was all through him that like, when I would take him, like, you know, we go to Fullerton together. And hey, rock the mic for me, you know? Yeah, I go. And then that's when Rondo, shout out to Takeover, my boss Rondo, he was like, hey man, fucking Juju's pretty good on the mic, you know? Like, he's like, yo, so he put me on the roster, and now I have a steady income through MCing because of Medic, you know?
Yeah.
So all credit, like Teddy and Medic and even Brian, like, yo, they put me in positions to win so much that it's like, I think that's what real quick, a lot of people don't understand it. Like, people try to do things on your own. You can't do it on your own. Sometimes it takes someone plugging you in. Like, quick story. Just Monday, I had an opportunity to go to the press conference at Dodger Stadium where they were launching the All-Star, launching the All-Star thing, because the All-Star game's in LA this year, and I got a chance to go because of Teddy.
Yeah,
Teddy threw my name out there, and they're all right. Yeah, cool. Fine. We'll send Juju out there, and if not, they wouldn't have sent me out there. So I was able to go out there. I got to talk to Jaime Harin, who's like one of the biggest Spanish broadcasters in like in history of broadcasting, and I got to talk to the mayor of LA. I got to talk to some other people, and I wouldn't have that opportunity if it wasn't for Teddy. I wouldn't have the opportunity to host weddings or dances or MC at clubs if it wasn't for Medic. I wouldn't have the opportunity to be a board op if it wasn't for Brian saying, hey, yeah, you could just work half a shift here and I'll send you the board op. And even Brian, so before I got into back to board hopping, the reason I board hopped again for the morning show at Cali with the Enrique Stone Station was because Brian said my name in a room full of like the PDs, like, hey, we need a board op because they're going to be in Vegas and we need a board op. And there's not that since the pandemic, there wasn't a lot of board ops. There still isn't a lot of board ops, So Brian's like, hey, Juju knows how to board op. He's done it before.
Yeah.
So he got me an opportunity, and that got the ball rolling to get me where I'm at right now with Melissa. So, it's just sometimes it takes your name just being plugged in the right places. And that's why, again, they're my brothers for life because they always plug my name in the right places and put me in a place to succeed. And like I said, get that extra income from MCing. But yeah, like the character Juju is just something like, it's just, it's funny. It's who I am when I'm drunk, even though I'm sober. If that makes any sense. When you get a little liquor in you, you get like this little like swag and like you get a little more confident. So that's what, and that's who I tap into, even though I'm not drinking anymore, because I'm not trying to drink as much anymore. So like that's what I try to tap into, is that character of like, yo, I want to be drunk Juju, even though I'm sober, and that's where I kind of get it. And then again, it comes down to that shit talking. People see a mic in my hand, they let me shit talk. And they love that shit. They eat it up, bro. They eat it up.
Man, that's so cool, man. Man, I had such a great conversation, man. I really feel like we shared a lot of good things in there that people are gonna take and hopefully it makes them see things different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I appreciate your time so much, bro. I know I took almost 2 hours of your time. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? Like, so I just want to say thank you, bro. And before we end, is there anything else you want to share? Anything you feel we didn't touch on? Like anything that's on your mind?
No, I mean, I think we hit a lot of great points, and I'm sure once we stop this, I'll think of something. And but that's maybe I'll get a chance to come on with you again and touch on things we didn't touch on. But like my biggest advice to the world is see the cup as half full. Understand that there's bigger problems in this world, but your problems aren't any less of a problem. You still have to deal with them, and just know that there's someone here that would love to help you. You know, and like, and if and sometimes you might be that, and you might have to be that person that has to help someone else in order to help yourself. You know.
Yeah.
So I think just know that we're not alone in this world, and it does take a village. It takes a village. There's no such thing as doing it on your own. I'm sorry, like I know, so like there's no such thing as a successful, like a solo successful story. No. Like, yeah, you might be at the top of them, but like, yo, it took like, hey, let me get this ride. Hey, can you watch my kid? Hey, can you take me here and stuff like that? So it takes a village to help succeed. So just understand that and just love one another. And yeah, pretty much shit, man. You know, like if you again, and I'm telling you guys now in this of a Beat Talk podcast, if you guys have any issues, just hit me up. I will gladly like talk to you, listen to you, give you any kind of advice I can give you. And yeah, just know that, and send you a Beat Talk, man. Reach out to him because I love what you're doing, bro, with this mental praise thing. I love it. It's so dope that you're giving an avenue for men to talk about mental awareness because it's too far in between, like that people do that shit. So I appreciate you, I want to give you your flowers now, bro, for doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's dope to see it, bro, and you're giving people like an opportunity to like, oh damn, like men have issues too, and like you're making it more of a normal thing,
Thank you, bro. That means so much to me, bro. For real, man. That was so beautifully put, man. I got the wise words from Julian, aka Juju, bro. Appreciate you, man.
I love you, man.
Yeah, hell yeah.
See you guys later. Bro.